I'm Detlev van Winterveld, the director of IASA, and I'd like to welcome you this morning to Vienna, this beautiful Schloss Luxembourg, and the International Institute for Applied Systems Analysis. I know that you have 2 full days ahead of you, so I will be very brief to let you get to work. Just want to mention that IASA is on the eve, literally on the eve, of implementing a new strategy for the next decade and a new research plan for the next 5 years. And this new strategy asks for systems analysis of 3 global problem areas: energy and climate change, food and water security, and poverty and inequities. While our focus is on problem-oriented and solution-focused research in these problem areas, we don't forget that there's a need for innovation, especially in the area of advanced methodologies. And this is where our evolution and ecology program has a very special place. With its dual emphasis on studying problems related to ecology and biodiversity, especially in the fisheries area, and with its strength in advanced methodologies involving evolution, dynamic systems, and game theory, EEP is an example of IASA's leadership in applied systems analysis. In particular, our evolutionary ecologists at IASA have worked on speciation models now for about 12 years in the past, so we are proud and we are glad to host this first European conference in this field. I want to especially thank Ulf Diekman, who's the program leader of our Evolution and Ecology program, and Aki Brandström, who's the co-organizer, and their colleagues for organizing this truly cutting-edge conference. I'm very pleased at the attendance. Enjoy the beautiful room. I hope you get out a little bit, stroll around, and maybe even have some time in Vienna over the next 2 days. So I wish you a very successful conference, and I thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to welcome you also on behalf of the organizers and all of IASA's staff to this first European conference on speciation research. We were overwhelmed by the very positive feedback we have received in terms of registrations and also in terms of contributions, both in talks and in posters. And as a result of this unexpectedly large interest, we had to shift rooms. We now have the biggest room of our conference center, and some of you might have noticed that at some stage we had to close the registration for just a few days before we could reopen it after we had secured this enhanced venue. This first European conference on speciation research is organized under the auspices of the European Research Networking Program FROSPECTS, which stands for Frontiers in Speciation Research. And before we delve into the subject matter of our conference, I would like to give you a little bit of background about this network which has enabled us to come together today. This network has started in 2008, and some organizational efforts have been invested since then, and now we are fully geared up to have quite a large number of events scheduled for the coming 2 or 3 years. And as Detlev has already emphasized, all this speciation research is intimately connected to biodiversity issues and to the global biodiversity crisis, understanding how species differentiate, how they find their niches, how they evolve reproductive isolation, and as a result segregate their gene pools, is at the heart of understanding the dynamics of biodiversity. Of course, the evolutionary timescale of speciation is somewhat longer than the management timescale we have in mind for most ecosystems, but one of the surprises of the research in recent years is that in many systems speciation seems to be surprisingly fast. So we might want to keep in mind that also preserving opportunities for speciation, preserving opportunities for the health and complexity of ecosystems in that regard is an important task for biodiversity management. Here's a brief subjective overview of why I would say speciation research currently is at a peak time of activity and in a phase of transition. The old divisions over allopatric versus sympatric speciation have somewhat faded into the background of our current perception. Obviously, these debates have not become obsolete, but somehow the discussions have been enriched by a broader perspective, and this broader perspective comes about in a number of dimensions. One of them is that we probably realize more and more that very few systems out there are strictly allopatric or strictly sympatric. In contrast, many situations involve some amount of gene flow, not full gene flow, not completely isolation in terms of some geographic or external force. So parapatric speciation has moved to the center stage of efforts of understanding speciation. Secondly, already taking off with Michael Rosenzweig's seminal work decades ago, we have a better understanding, or an increasingly good understanding, of the processes underlying speciation, and process-based classifications are complementing the pattern-based classifications that have prevailed so far. So I've just picked out three such dichotomies. We have competitive versus non-competitive speciation, we have ecological versus non-ecological speciation, and adaptive versus non-adaptive speciation. And since these processes tend to be quite complex, also these dichotomies, process-based dichotomies, cover a variety of angles, and there's probably no just one right way of looking at this. Quite obviously, the genomic revolution is contributing significantly to our understanding of speciation. Speciation genes are becoming accessible. We can probe how long in the past divergence have occurred in the genome, and to some extent even over which period of time they have occurred, whether that was a very gradual segregation of gene pools or more abrupt segregation. Altogether, I think it's fair to say that we are currently revisiting a lot of previously uncontended notions, and that we may be in the process of finding different null hypotheses more plausible than those that were held uncontrovertible in the past. And process-oriented perspectives, I've already hinted at that, are steadily gaining prominence and are complementing the pattern-based perspectives. All this leads to a number of research challenges which the research networking program Prospects tries to address. We have to understand the conditions under which alternative speciation modes are occurring. And there's quite a complexity of them, so answers are not simple. We also have layers and potentially spatial mosaics of process components, and again, this enriches the picture considerably. For achieving this, we want to combine empirical insights, obviously, with theoretical advances, and also cross-disciplinary boundaries by bringing together developments in ecology, taxonomy, and genetics. We want to elucidate the importance of spatial structure. Again, this harks back to the importance of parapatric speciation patterns, of genetic architecture, of reproductive isolation and its evolution, of mating traits, and again, their adaptation, of ecological characteristics for alternative speciation modes, and ideally, we want to understand all these facets not in isolation, but together. And therefore, we need to advance integrative analysis by bringing together researchers from all areas of speciation research. And here I interject a brief remark also of a more personal nature. All people who have worked in speciation research, I think, have noticed on occasion that discussions have become heated, which is not a bad thing in science, but sometimes there are also schools in speciation research, and the Prospects is dedicated to transgressing these boundaries and trying to establish a dialogue where we are focusing on the scientific substance and leaving behind such traditional divides. Prospects is supported by 18 of the European Science Foundation's national member organizations. You see a map on the right-hand side, so quite a nice coverage of European countries. These research networking programs operate on an à la carte basis, which means that a proposal is submitted to each national member organization, and then they decide to what extent they're interested and therefore whether they are funding this. So Prospects was quite successful in this regard by garnering the support of 18 of ESF's national member organizations. It's running for 5 years, starting in May 2008, and has a total budget of about €1.5 million. What are we doing with this money? You see the main instruments here, and this conference obviously is one of the major events of the whole networking enterprise. We will have another conference of this kind in 2013, and we hope that maybe this establishes a pattern in which we see conferences dedicated to speciation research being organized on a regular basis, be it every second year, be it every third year, according to interest. The second item here is also very important for the activities of Prospects. It's about targeted workshops, and you will hear more about those and their topics just in a second. The 7 targeted workshops have been decided, and we have most of them coming ahead. So if you're interested in particular dimensions of speciation research, we hope very much that you find those of interest and might be interested in attending. For the younger scientists, Prospects is organizing a number of schools. We have empirically oriented schools and theoretically oriented schools. So a pair of each of these schools will be organized during the lifetime of the project. And then we have symposia, which are supposed to be organized in conjunction with international conferences, and we have funds for about 8 such symposia. A couple of these have already taken place. And then, again, mostly in support to younger scientists who want to bridge national boundaries and enhance their horizon by visiting other research laboratories, we have available altogether 40 to 50 travel grants, so about 12 per year, and these are available on an open call that is evaluated on a quarterly basis. And I should also say symposia are available through an open call, which is continuously open. So anytime you want to submit a symposium proposal, please feel free to do that on the website of the European Science Foundation. Yeah, and with that, I just draw your attention to the website of Prospects, which contains much more information about the upcoming events, which hopefully will see some of you returning to the network. And in your conference folder, you will find the Prospects brochure, which also provides much of that information in compact form. So with that, I hand over to the conference co-organizer, Orke Brandström, who will now tell you a little bit more about the concrete forthcoming activities.
So thank you. Prospects will organize 2 conferences, of which this is the first. The second conference will be organized in 2013, and the details of that are yet to be decided. But it's hoped that we will follow the tradition of this conference. We will have 7 workshops on specific topics in speciation research, and these have all been decided. In 2011, we will have a workshop on niche variant speciation in Hungary, and a workshop on hybridization and speciation in the UK. In 2012, there will be a workshop on genetics and genomics of speciation, which will be held in Switzerland. Community evolution and speciation in Sweden, more theoretical workshop. Year after that, in 2013, we will have a workshop on behavior and speciation in Oslo and modes of diversification in Mallorca, Spain. And in addition to this, Prospects has already this summer organized 1 workshop in Iceland. Prospects we'll also organize 4 schools aimed at PhD students and early-stage postdoctoral researchers. The first of these schools were held in Switzerland this summer, and it was about empirical speciation research. The next school will be about theoretical methods, and it will be held at the Abisko Scientific Station in Sweden in March. You will find some more information about this school included in your conference booklets. Then in 2012, summer 2012, Prospex is planning to organize 2 schools. The first will be on empirical speciation research, titled Current Methods of Speciation Research in the Czech Republic. And shortly thereafter, there will be a theoretical school, the Theory of Speciation, at Turku, Finland. In addition to the conferences, workshops, and schools, Prospex also, as you heard, have funds available for about 8 symposia and roughly 40 to 50 travel grants for young scientists. And symposia grants are advertised continuously for continuous review of the applications, whereas the travel grants are reviewed on a quarterly basis. And if you're interested in any of these grants or workshop or schools, any of the upcoming activities, you're very welcome to take a look at our webpage. You've already seen the address, but I use it again here. In addition to that, you're of course very welcome to ask Ulf or me or any member of the Prospex steering committee which are here at the conference.